and welcome to the 30k channel, a channel dedicated to games set in the Horus Heresy. I'm your host, David Brains. We are joined by our rules master, James Dilworth. Good morning, James.
Good morning.
And we are joined by Henry. Good morning, Henry.
Morning.
Now, this is James's first kind of rules master game.
Yeah. Already been on, but gonna get stuck in today.
I'm just the intro guy and the camera guy today, but James is our man today.
Yeah.
And we have secured Henry, who's come all the way from London this morning, so thank you so much for your effort this morning.
Pleasure.
Collected both these guys from the station in Huntingdon, made a little trip over to the channel, and here we are to bring you a large game of Adeptus Titanicus, game number 7?
Yep, 7, yeah, correct.
Great stuff. Now, James, tell us what we're up to.
So today we're doing a match play mission where we've got 2,500 points each with 2 mana pools each, so it's going to be a big, exciting game. We've both rolled our missions, so you've got Retrieval and I've got Glory and Honor.
Great.
So we're playing, well, we're going to be playing different missions, but also trying to blow each other to pieces as well.
Yeah, you know, Henry, you've brought a Myrmidon mana pool, haven't you?
Yep, so 2 mana pools for me. Myrmidon mana pool.
Yep.
Easier said.
Tricky.
Which is 3 Warlords and a Reaver, and I've actually got a Ferox mana pool. It's the first time I'm trying this, which is a close-in combat-y mana pool. With just the 2 Warhounds and the Reaver there.
It's going to be a tricky one because there's 5 Warlords on the table.
Yeah, it's a lot of Warlords and a lot of damage can be done.
I'm really playing a little 4x4, which is, you know, the general setup for these. 6x4 is probably a better option.
Yeah,
but
we're pushing the limits of the board size today. But it's going to be up close, personal, knife fighting with Warlords, which is going to be exciting. And no power fists.
No, none of us actually brought a knife. We've shown up to a knife fight with guns. Oh, right.
Sorry.
But more importantly, though, James, you've got the chain fist on the Reaver, but you've also got the Lancers as well.
Yeah. So those Lancers are great, just brilliant, and the amount on a 4x4 they can be really, really game changing. But at the same time, if they get spotted in the open by those 3 Warlords, it's game over for them.
You've definitely got the firepower to deal with them, no doubt.
Yeah, definitely.
If I can see them, if I can hit them. Yeah.
So it's the first time we've seen the Lancers on the board as well, so that'll be really interesting to see how they go. We've seen the smaller Knights quite a bit, but really interesting to see how they're going to go. We must also say thank you to Dan Wheeler, who is at 1K Sun on Instagram, who painted the Mortis and the Knight banner for us as well. So thank you so much, Dan, for doing that. Did a spectacular job. If you follow Dan, he does a lot of work in progress. He's doing a Demon Army for 30k at the moment, so it's really worth watching him, see what he gets up to. But James, you're commanding the Mortis.
Yeah.
You've got some really great weapons. You've got some of the new ones as well, the Sun Furies. And
and I've taken some fairly different loadouts that we'll go into later, a bit later.
Yeah. So. Good stuff. And we recruited Henry. Saw some of his stuff on Instagram, and I messaged you and said, "Hey, do you fancy it?" So it's really great to get players from the community come out here and have the games on the channel. It's not just James and I playing games all day long, so it's good to have you in. And you've chosen, I don't remember the name. I'm sorry, Astorum.
That's right. Yeah. When the game first came out, I actually started off as sort of thinking I was going to do a homebrew Legion, but when I saw the colour scheme of these, and the flames in particular, I just thought that would look really cool on these models. Yeah. And I've had some experience painting yellow because I've got a Imperial Fist army, so I thought I can make something that looks quite good. I think they're coming out all right.
It's a really striking look, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, the flames against the blue background, it looks great. So we're looking forward to see how the armies run out. You know, Mortis is my personal favourite.
Yeah.
I love the colour scheme between the red and the black, and I think it looks really cool.
And their background and everything. Mortis are one of the iconic. In fact, I think we've got both the 2 iconic Legios here, Astorum and Mortis.
Yeah.
From the early days of AT in the 80s, which was before my time, but I pretend to think otherwise.
It's good. We're really looking forward to this game. What we're going to do is we're going to dig deeper into this list, work out exactly what the Legions have taken, their loadouts, and we'll talk about some of the special rules, because you've both taken, both of your mana pools have got certain rules which you'll need to think about. And James, I know you've upgraded the Mortis to have some special bits and bobs on them, haven't you?
Yeah.
So we'll talk about those when we do the Army Showcase, and then we'll see at the beginning of. Well, I say beginning of term 1, that's a bit of a heresy reference. It's first round activation, I guess.
Activation.
Or round 1. We'll see you then.
2,500 points of the Legio Mortis, consisting of a Myrmidon mana pool and a Janissary mana pool. The mission Mortis are embarking on is Glory and Honor. Myrmidon mana pool for the Legio Mortis, consisting of the Penumbral Reaper, the Princeps Sonorus, which is armed with 2 volcano cannons and an Apocalypse missile launcher, and it also has been granted the Warmaster's Beneficence, which will help it in taking shots in the first rounds of the game. The second Warlord, the Nuntius Mortis, is armed with twin Sun Furies and laser blasters, and has no additional upgrades. Finally, the Reaver, 2 volcano cannons and turbo lasers. Janissary Maniple for the Meligio Mortis, consisting of the Reaver Titan Carrion Crow, armed with a Chain Fist, a Melter Cannon, and a turbo laser. It also has the remains of the Fallen upgrade, which should help in taking down some leadership roles. There's also 2 Warhound Titans, one of which, Blackheart, is armed with a Vulcan Mega Bolter and an Inferno Cannon, and the other one, Shadow Strider, is armed with a Plasma Blast Gun and a Turbo Laser Destructor. As part of the Janissary Maniple, there is also 2 banners of Cerastus Knights, which can work well with that maniple.
2,500 points of Legio Astorum. There is a Myrmidon Maniple and a Ferox Light Maniple here, for a total of 3 Warlords, 2 Reavers, and 2 Warhound Titans. Legio Astorum are carrying out the retrieval mission, hopefully, and that's why you'll see the little yellow head on the floor in front of them. The Myrmidon Maniple is led by the Princeps Seniores in Aurora Ratio. That's the Warlord Titan armed with a Sunfury Annihilator, a Macro Gatling Cannon, and Apocalypse missile launchers. He's got 2 other Warlords with him. First of those is Fulmine Ceruleum, armed with a Sunfury Plasma Annihilator and a Macro Gatling Cannon, and with paired Gatling blasters on the roof. And then there is Ultima Lux, who is armed with a Bellicosa Volcano Cannon, Mori Quake Cannon, and the Apocalypse missile launchers. That maniple is finished off with the Reaver Battle Titan Jus Ad Bellum, which is armed with a Melter Cannon, Reaver Chain Fist, and Apocalypse missile launcher. And so the Princeps Seniores of this maniple has the Ironclad Tyrant trait, so he's kind of bossy. He'll let them re-roll command checks once a turn. This is my second maniple, and it's rather a lot smaller, as you can see. This is a Ferox Light maniple. It's led by the Reaver Titan Area Grigio, with the Princeps trait Hero of the Crusade. So he's interested in getting up close to things and punching them with his Power Fist. And there are 2 Warhound Titans. They've each got a Vulcan Mega Bolter and a Plasma Blast Gun, and they are named Tumultum Furor, and Nihil Significant. The Reaver Titan is armed with a Turbo Laser, Power Fist, and I've converted a Vulcan Mega Bolter for its Carapace weapon.
James, Henry, we're deployed and ready to go. There's a lot of models on the table, isn't there?
Yeah, this could go one or 2 ways. Fast and Furious or a slow, brutal slog. We'll see.
It's going to be really interesting, yeah.
I'm going for Fast and Furious. I think I've got to get in there, snatch that head, rescue my crew, and get out of there before the Mortis guys bring their forces to bear.
Yeah, and I've obviously got to lay down as much fire as possible to stop that happening.
Good stuff. All right, so we haven't rolled for priority yet, have we?
No.
So we're going to do that now. Let's have a quick roll to see.
I
That's
a win for Mortis. In spite of him rolling a d6, I had a d10 because I'd finished deploying sooner.
Well, as I get to choose, you're going to get the first activation for the first round.
Thank you very much.
All right, good stuff. All right, gents, let's have a friendly handshake.
Good luck, James.
Good luck.
Good luck, guys, and let's get on with it.
Turn 1 strategy phase. Priority goes to Astorum. Orders are full stride for the Area Grigio. That's a Reaver at the front there. Just to the right of the Area Grigio, we have the Aurora Ratio with split fire orders, providing some covering fire. And moving along, we have the Ultima Lux, which is on first fire orders. I tried to give full stride orders to the 2 Warhounds, but That didn't work. They're not actually a squadron, but the first one failed its order.
Turn 1, strategy phase, Legio Mortis. Only the Princeps Sonorus in Penumbral Reaver took an order of first fire, while the rest of his mana pools were too eager to get to the fray to listen to his orders.
Turn 1 movement phase, Legio Astorum. First movement is Fulminus Ceruleum. He has moved 8 inches forward by using the Astorum special rule to extra push his reactor. His Machine Spirit tried to take over control, but the Princeps reined it in, kept the Titan doing what it was told, and he's moved to where he wanted to be. And of course, we do have 1 point of reactor heat for Fulminus Ceruleum.
Turn 1 movement, Legio Mortis. Shadow Strider advances through between the building and the cover to try and outflank Astorum.
Turn 1 movement, Legio Astorum. Tumultum Fora, the Warhound, has pushed its reactor. Again, the Machine Spirit tried to take control, and again, the Princeps was able to rein it in. So it has moved 12 inches, advancing round to try and flank the enemy Princeps Senioras in his Warlord Titan.
Carrion Crow advances closely at speed towards Astorum, pushing its reactor but gaining a point of heat in the process.
Turn 1 movement phase, Ultima Lux has fired its Apocalypse missile launchers on first fire orders at the enemy Reaver Titan. It has scored 8 hits, and that's resulted in 2 Void Shields going down on the enemy machine.
Next activation for the Legio Mortis is a banner of Cerastus Knights that have moved past the building to try and join the Warhound in a flanking expedition.
Legio Astorum Warhound Titan Nihil Significant has pushed its reactor without gaining any heat in order to keep up with its compatriot.
Next activation, Legio Mortis, the Reaver Spiritus Mori has moved forward, sidestepping out of the way of the Warlord behind it.
Legio Astorum Reaver Titan Area Grigio has pushed its reactor as hard as it can. Once again, the Machine Spirit has tried to take over, and once again, the Princeps has managed to take control. It's therefore moved 11 inches, bearing down on the lost Astorum crew.
Next activation for the Legio Mortis, the second Cerastus Knight banner has joined the first in a flanking expedition.
The Aurora Ratio, the Princeps of the Myrmidon Maniple, has pushed his reactor as hard as he can as well. No problems here, just 1 point of heat, and he's moved up 8 inches to support the Area Grigio.
Next Legio Mortis activation, the Black Heart, the second Warhound Titan, has moved up to join the flanking expedition on the left flank.
And here comes the final Reaver Titan for Legio Astorum. This is the Jus Ad Bellum, and like lots of my Titans this turn, for Legio Astorum, he has made use of the War March rule to move the extra 2 inches. When he pushed his reactor, he just got a single point of heat. For once, the Machine Spirit was under control, and he's moved up there to support his other Princeps.
Next activation, Legio Mortis. The Warlord Nuntius Mortis has moved forward just 2 inches to get in closer range of the advancing Astorum Titans. Using the first fire order, the last remaining Warlord Titan attempted to open up. Unfortunately, the Reaver Titan it was targeting, the closest Astorum Reaver, was not in arc.
Damage control phase, priority Legio Astorum. All of the Legio Astorum Titans have successfully repaired the few points of heat that they had, and so they're all sitting happily in the green.
Legio Mortis damage control phase. The Titan Carrion Crow fully restored its reactor back into the green, whereas the second Reaver, Nuntius Mortis, has not restored any of its shields back to full.
Combat phase begins, and with priority for Legio Astorum, the Reaver Titan Area Grigio has pushed its reactor. Yet again, the Machine Spirit has attempted to take control, but the Princeps has damped it down, made it do what he wants, which is to advance 9 inches to try and take some cover behind this building here. You'll see that he's actually reached the crew of the missing Titan. However, as it's not the movement phase, the Titan crew don't get aboard the Titan.
Legio Mortis activation, combat phase. The Warlord Nuntius Mortis opened fire with its laser blasters on the advancing Reaver Titan, pushing its reactor to gain the shield bane trait. Unfortunately, it awakened its Machine Spirit, and unlike its Astorum enemies, it did not reign in control, rolling the haughty result, which means that attack ended immediately. After doing so, both of its Sun Fury Annihilators opened up on the same Reaver Titan, dealing one shield worth of damage.
The Legio Astorum Warlord Titan Ultima Lux has continued its barrage against the enemy Reaver Titan Spiritus Mori. It has opened up with its Apocalypse missile launchers and has brought down all of the shields on the enemy Reaver Titan. Ultima Lux continues the barrage with its Bellicosa Volcano Cannon, striking the leg of the Spiritus Mori, dealing it a direct hit and a critical hit. The blast also clipped Nuntius Mortis behind, but its shields held. Ultima Lux then continued with a slightly trickier shot with its Mori Quake Cannon through rather a lot of obstacles. That shot did not go anywhere near where it was intended. However, it did land between one of the enemy's Warhounds and Reaver Titans. They each passed their shield saves.
Legio Mortis, next activation. The Reaver Titan Carrion Crow opened up with its turbo lasers on the Area Grigio, pushing for Shield Bane, but costing no shields. It then opened up with its Melter Cannon, forcing the Reaver Titan to push its reactor to gain better shield saves, but again, did not lose any in the shot. But it did gain a point of reactor heat.
The Legio Astorum Princeps Seniores Aurora Ratio has opened fire with its Apocalypse missile launchers, targeting the enemy Reaver Titan it sees in front of it with a chain fist, and has brought down its shields entirely due to some pretty bad rolls from both of us. The Aurora Ratio continued firing. It fired its Sunfury Plasma Annihilator at maximal fire, gaining a point of heat in the process because it rolled a 1 to hit, but 3 hits landed on the enemy Reaver Titan's leg. One of those was a superficial hit, but we also scored a devastating hit and a critical hit. So both Reavers now have critical hits to their legs. So the Aurora Ratio tried to finish off the enemy Reaver Titan using its macro Gatling blaster to target the leg specifically, needing 5s to hit. It got 2 hits, caused some minor damage, 1 extra devastating hit. That has structurally compromised the legs on the enemy Reaver, but caused no more critical damage.
Spiritus Mori opened up onto Area Grigio with its turbo laser, pushing for Shield Bane, took her to point of heat and stripped no shields. Spiritus Mori elected not to fire its volcano cannons, not wanting to risk the plasma heat.
Just Ad Bellum has fired its Melter Cannon into the enemy Reaver with the chain fist, accurately landing a blast directly onto the damaged leg, but then rolling a double 1. So it seems it needs to power up its Melter Cannon a little bit before we can do some proper damage to the enemy Titans. Just Ad Bellum has managed to redeem itself somewhat with the fire from its Apocalypse missile launcher. So that also targeted the damaged leg, managed to get 3 hits in spite of needing 5s, and one of those has caused enough damage to do a second crit to the enemy Titan's leg. So that Reaver Titan is now looking at having damage stabilizers and seized locomotors.
Legio Mortis activation. The Warlord Titan Penumbral Reaper opened fire with its Apocalypse missile launchers, landing hits against the opposing Warlord on the far side, which after boosting its reactor and taking a point of heat, saved all. The Warlord then declined to fire its volcano cannons, not risking to take the heat.
Legio Astorum Warlord Titan Fulmina Caroleum then opens up on the opposing enemy Knight Lancers with its macro Gatling cannon. It's nearly killed one of the Knights. It's done it, I think, 3 points of structural damage, so it's just there on its last legs. We'll see what it can do with the rest of its guns. The paired Gatling blasters from Fulmina Caroleum do just enough damage to drop the first enemy Knight, which is first blood to Legio Astorum. Fulmina Caroleum has now carried on, and it maximal fired its Sunfury Plasma Annihilator. Direct hit straight on the Knight Scion, blew him to 1,000,000 pieces. Gone. Last activation of the turn 1 combat phase is a Warhound Titan going for a slightly speculative shot with its Plasma Blast gun at the enemy Reaver Titan over there. Just outside of range, not by much, so that the Warhounds will shortly be coming into weapons range.
Final activation for the Legio Mortis. As no weapons are in range and there's nothing else to do, the Warhounds and the last banner have declined to take part in the combat phase. End phase for the Legio Mortis. As both Reaver Titans have suffered locomotives and stabilizers damage to their legs, both have moved and rotated, suffering one moving 45 degrees to the left, the other moving 45 degrees to the right.
Turn 2 strategy phase. Now going from left to right on the Legio Astorum Titans, Legio Astorum 1 priority this turn. We have the Fulminus Caroleum. He sees a load of knights and things coming towards him, so he's standing still on first fire orders. Also on first fire orders is Ultima Lux. Then we have the Princeps Seniores for the Memorandum Maniple. Aurora Ratio is on split fire orders. The Just Ad Bellum is on full stride. Area Grigio sees a lot of enemy engines quite close to the grid, so it's gone on charge orders, rather speculatively. And the 2 Warhounds have both gone on split fire orders.
Legio Mortis, strategy phase. The Reaver Titan, Spiritus Mori, takes a panicked repair roll. No, sorry, I'm going to do that again because I got the 2 Reavers confused.
Yeah.
Legio Mortis, strategy phase. The Reaver Titan, Carrion Crow, takes a repair order, successfully restoring a critical damage. In addition, the other Reaver Titan, Spiritus Mori, passes a first fire check to attempt to fire on the approaching Warhounds. Finally, the Warlord Nuntius Mortis successfully passes a first fire to continue laying down fire on the advancing Astorum forces.
Seizing the initiative, the Area Grigio surges forwards towards the damaged enemy Reavers. However, unfortunately, it was just short of being able to reach its target, so it stopped about 2.5 inches away, swinging its power fist futilely in the air.
First activation for Legio Mortis in the movement phase. The Warhound Titan Shadow Strider activates moving forward. Because of the Janissary mana pool special rule, I activated the Night Banner at the same time, moving them forward to try and get out of arc of the guns of that Warlord.
Warlord Titan Fulmina Carulium has activated on first fire orders, and it has opened up with its Sunfury Plasma Annihilator on maximal fire. Only got a couple of hits this time into one of the knights, and has left that knight alive, albeit on its very last legs.
Legio Mortis movement activation. The Reaver Titan Spiritus Mori opens up on the Warhounds with its turbo laser on first fire, hitting, not pushing its reactor, but not costing any shields on the Warhound Titan. All in all, nothing.
The Princeps Seniore in the Aurora ratio has again pushed his reactor as hard as he can to move 8 inches forwards, gained a point of heat in the process. Unfortunately, he's also put himself right in the way of a shot that one of his other Titans have been lining up to try and take down an enemy Reaver, so he's going to get a bit of a telling off after the battle, I think.
Legio Mortis next activation. The Warlord Titan Nuntius Mortis, pushing its reactor for Shield Bane and thus taking a point of heat, opens fire with its laser blasters on the approaching Reaver Titan, taking 2 shields.
The Reaver Titan Just Ad Bellum has now moved up, pushing its reactor, just gaining a single point of heat to gain a bit of extra speed, and it then pushed its reactor a second time to gain an additional turn. It spun around almost entirely to point back towards the edge of the board in an attempt to rescue the fallen Titan's crew.
Legio Mortis next activation. The Warlord Titan Penumbral Reaver turns to face the Reaver Titan that just rescued the crew.
Next activation was the Warlord Titan Ultima Lux on first fire orders. It fired its Mori Quake Cannon at an enemy Reaver Titan. Managed quite an unlikely shot. Needed a 5 to hit and got one. That has damaged the left volcano cannon of the target Reaver and also, crucially, caused it to pivot 45 degrees to the right. That means that Reaver Titan isn't pointed at anything very much.
Legio Mortis activation. The Warhound Titan Blackheart moves up in support of its comrades on the left flank.
Back with Legio Astorum, first the Warhound Titan Tumultum Furor advanced without pushing its reactor to bring some targets into range. Its companion, the Nihil Significant, then pushed its reactor, gaining a single point of heat, and overtook its friend, and they both ought to be in range come the combat phase.
Legio Mortis, final activation. The Carrion Crow has elected not to activate as it took the repair order in the previous phase.
Turn 2, end of the movement phase. The Reaver Titan Just Ad Bellum has reached the crew of the downed Titan. They clamber aboard, and they're ready to make their escape. Legio Astorum has priority in the damage control phase. None of the Titans have orange reactors. However, the Area Grigio has lost a lot of shields and is looking pretty warm. It didn't roll very well for its repairs. It managed to heal a single shield. That's all. The remainder of the Titans for Legio Astorum are looking pretty good, however. The whole Myrmidon mana pool is fully in the green.
Legio Mortis damage control phase. The Reaver Titan, Spiritus Mori, repaired its damaged volcano cannon. Then Carrion Crow restored its reactor to the green, and finally Nuntius Mortis restored its reactor to the green as well.
Turn 2 combat phase. Legio Astorum has priority, and the Reaver Titan Area Grigio activates, targeting its enemy Reaver Titan Carrion Crow. it pours all of its fire, targeting the already heavily damaged leg of the Reaver Titan, first with its laser blaster, causing a single crit, and then finally pouring more bullets in with its Vulcan Megabolter, which is just enough to saw the last bit of the leg off and cause the enemy Titan to die. We're now going to roll on the catastrophic damage table. So the Carrion Crow, in its death throes, it wildfired straight back into the area Grigio that had brought it down. It had a pretty accurate set of shooting, actually, resulting in 3 shield saves for the area Grigio. It only failed one of them. The area Grigio only had 2 shields to start with, so it's just got 1 shield left. It's hanging on in there.
Then what happened to the Titan?
Titan then fell over, just sprawled itself across these rocks here.
Legio Mortis combat activation turn 2. The Reaver Spiritus Mori, sensing an opportunity, turns its carapace weapon almost entirely backwards to fire upon the approaching Reaver, stripping its shields entirely and not taking a single point of heat in the process.
The Legio Astorum Reaver Titan Just Ad Bellum, carrying now the downed crew of the friendly Warlord, has turned around and pushed his reactor using the War March special rule with a double blank, meaning there's no additional heat to his reactor. And he's moved 11 inches back towards his own lines, hoping to make it off the board before the enemy warlords hit him in the back.
Legio Mortis activation. The Nuntius Mortis opens fire with its paired laser blasters at the Reaver Titan, dealing 3 devastating hits, a direct hit and a critical to the legs. Eager for the kill, Nuntius Mortis then fires with its plasmas. Its left one misses, and the right one takes a single direct damage, which results in an additional critical.
Legio Astorum activates Warlord Fulmina Caroleum. It fires its paired Gatling blasters off its roof into the approaching knights, and it manages to finish off the very damaged knight that it had shot earlier. The Fulmina Caroleum then opens up with its macro Gatling blaster, hoping to save itself from having to use the Sunfury Plasma Annihilator. Unfortunately for the Legio Astorum battle group, the shield of the knight deflects every last bullet that came its way. The Fulmina Caroleum gets a bit fed up with the knights and decides to fire its Sunfury Plasma Annihilator at maximal fire, and this has the desired effect of smearing that knight all over the scenery in the vicinity.
Legio Mortis combat activation. Penumbral Reaper opens fire with its leftmost volcano cannon, hitting the head. Owing to the pitiless warlord trait, it adds 1 to the strength of the weapon, dealing 2 critical hits to the head. Although the pitiless trait would have still come into effect, the right volcano cannon hit the Vulcan Megabolter, disabling it. Could have been a better result for Mortis.
The Warhound Titan Nihil Significant is on split fire orders. It elects to fire its Plasma Blast gun on maximal fire into the enemy Reaver Titan that still survives in front of it, while shooting its Vulcan Megabolter into the Warlord. The Plasma Blast gun fires 2 shots. One of these hitting the leg of the enemy Titan and dealing 2 devastating hits, resulting in an additional point of critical damage and structurally compromising the Titan's legs. Meanwhile, the Vulcan Megabolter strips 2 shields from the enemy Warlord Titan.
Legio Mortis combat activation. The Warhound Titan Shadow Strider opens fire with its Vulcan Megabolter on the closing Warlord, hitting twice, but the Warlord saved both hits.
The next activation for Legio Astorum is the Warhound Titan Tumultum Furor. It fires its Plasma Blast gun at maximal fire, scoring 1 hit, and again shooting the building next to the Reaver Titan with its other shot. That hit, unfortunately, resulted in a double 1 and 2 superficial damages to the Reaver to no effect. However, it followed up with its Vulcan Megabolter, targeting the legs directly as they were already heavily damaged, and this managed to do enough damage to saw off the remainder of the Reaver Titan's legs, meaning that that's 2 Reaver Titans killed by Vulcan Megabolters this turn via Legio Astorum. Spiritus Mori's legs finally give way beneath it. It crashes to the ground and its magazine detonates. This results in damage all around. The 2 Legio Mortis Warlord Titans are both caught within the blast. The nearest Titan's shields hold fully, but the Titan with the volcano cannons loses a shield. Meanwhile, the seriously damaged area Grigio takes 3 more strength 10 hits. However, it's very fortunate, and these hit its weapon again, damaging its power fist.
Legio Mortis combat phase. Black Heart shoots at the approaching Warlord Titan with its turbo laser, boosting its reactor, taking a point of heat and taking no shields down. It then fires with its plasma,
taking 4 hits on the Warlord, which then pushes its reactor, takes no heat, and saves all of them.
Astorum Warlord Titan Ultima Lux opens up at the opposing Warlord Titan. It fires its missiles wildly inaccurately, but does manage to take 1 shield down. Ultima Lux continues the barrage with its Bellicosa Volcano Cannon and its Quake Cannon, and at the end of all that, it's gained no heat and managed to drop 1 shield on the enemy Warlord Titan. The Aurora Ratio then opens up with its own missile launchers. It manages to strip an additional 2 shields. Pretty inaccurate fire, but also pretty bad shield saving throws. The Aurora Ratio keeps up the barrage with its Macro Gatling Cannon. That finally drops the shields on the Nuntius Mortis. The Aurora Ratio then fires its Sun Fury Plasma Annihilator at maximal fire. Unfortunately, the shot is heavily obscured by the Area Grigio, which is still barely surviving there. That actually lands 1 hit to blow off one of the enemy Titan's Sun Fury Plasma Annihilators. End phase, the heavily damaged Area Grigio, due to the critical damage to its leg, swings 45 degrees to the left.
Turn 3, priority to Legio Mortis. Only 1 order enacted this time, that is first fire on Nuntius Mortis, which was enacted successfully.
Turn 3, stratagem phase for Legio Astorum. The Fulmina Caruleum has put himself onto first fire orders. So has the Ultima Lux. Nearby, the Jus Ad Bellum carrying the rescued Titan crew has not taken any orders. Neither has the Aurora Ratio in the centre. The heavily damaged Area Grigio has put itself onto repair orders and just managed to raise 1 Void Shield. Finally, the 2 Warhound Titans on the flanking force have both managed to put on split fire orders. Legio Astorum uses the Blind Barrage stratagem in an effort to try and save the life of the critically damaged Area Grigio.
Movement phase, Legio Mortis. First activation, Shadow Strider moves forward, boosting its reactor and taking 2 points of heat to try and get on the flank of the Warlord Titan.
Legio Astorum Reaver Titan Area Grigio activates in the movement phase, which will prevent it from activating in the combat phase as it is on repair orders. It needed to do that to move out of the corridor arc of the enemy Warhound Lord Titan in front of it, which is hopefully going to keep it alive for a little bit longer.
Turn 3, Legio Mortis movement. The Warhound, sensing an opportunity, and as Mortis are now on the aggressive assault, has turned around using all 3 of its turns to fall a near enough entire 180 to get into the rear arc of the Reaver Titan.
The Legio Astorum Princeps Seniores in Aurora Ratio has sidestepped away from the approaching enemy Warhound Titan and pushed his reactor to turn to face the Warhound. Unfortunately, in the process, he's gained 2 points of reactor heat.
Again, keeping up the aggression, the Legio Mortis decide to enact the Voidbreaker field stratagem, attempting to bring down the Void Shields of the Warlord that has just turned. Unfortunately, the strategy was not effective this turn, but it can be used again in the future. The Legio Mortis Warlord Penumbral Reaper turns slightly to put all of its weapons in arc of its opposing number, the Princeps Sonoris of Legio Astorum.
Legio Astorum activation. The Reaver Titan Jus Ad Bellum, carrying the rescued Titan crew, has pushed its reactor, gaining a point of heat, and has made its way to within 1 inch of the edge of the board. This means that if it should survive till the end phase, I'll be able to remove it and rescue the Titan crew.
Legio Mortis next activation. The Warlord Titan, Nuntius Mortis, opens fire with its paired laser blasters, pushing to get the Shield Bane trait, thus taking a point of heat damage, takes 3 shield saves off of 3 shields off of the opposing Warlord in the centre.
Next activation was the Legio Astorum Warlord Titan Ultima Lux. It fires its Quake Cannon at the enemy Warlord straight ahead of it. Unfortunately, that missed, and a 7-inch scatter meant that the large detonation went off nowhere relevant. The Legio Astorum Warlord Titan Fulmina Ceruleum is on first fire orders. However, the enemy Warhound Titans are both vanished from its line of sight, and so it is unable to fire. However, on the other side of the battlefield, the 2 Warhound Titans are advancing towards the enemy Warlords. Bravely, you might say. And both are on split fire orders.
Legio Mortis, priority damage control phase. The Warlord Titan Nuntius Mortis, in a successful repair roll, reignites its Void Shield and repairs the damaged Sun Fury Plasma Annihilator.
The servitors on the area Grigio are working overtime to try and put it back together again. A good roll this turn has allowed it to fix one of the crits on its head, one on its legs, and meanwhile cool down its reactor by a point.
As the Warhound Titan Shadow Strider pushed its reactor into the orange to move where it was going, it's taken a Strength 9 hit to its body, but it took no damage from the hit. However, it wasn't successful in its repair rolls.
Meanwhile, the Princeps Senores for Legio Astorum has managed to recover 2 shields to his Titan, the Aurora Ratio. And finally, the Jus Ad Bellum manages to cool its reactor down into the green as it makes its exit.
Combat phase, priority to Legio Mortis. The Warhound Titan Shadow Strider have moved into a good position, opened fire with both its Inferno Cannon and its Vulcan Megaball to try and strip some shields. However, it only took 1 shield out.
First activation for Legio Astorum. The Ultima Lux opens fire with its missile launchers, stripping the last shield from the Warlord Titan opposite. Ultima Lux then opens up with its Bellicosa Volcano Cannon. The Machine Spirit once again tries to take control, though as ever the Legio Astorum Princeps is able to rein it in, does gain a point of heat in the process. That hit slams into the enemy Warlord Titan's leg, causing 1 critical damage and a superficial hit. It then fires its Quake Cannon, which strikes the enemy Titan in the body, doing only 1 direct hit, but pushing it back to the very edge of the board.
Legio Mortis, next activation. The Warhound Titan Blackheart pushing its reactor to go maximal fire, fired into the leg of the Reaver Titan, finally ending it with massive damage. We're now going to roll on the catastrophic damage table. With the laid low result, the Reaver Titan stumbles 5 inches backwards before falling to the ground in its final death.
Legio Astorum Warhound Titan Nihil Significant splits his fire between the 2 enemy Warlord Titans in a slightly ambitious attempt to kill them both. He does manage to bring down the shields on one of the enemy Warlord Titans, the one with the volcano cannons, but his Plasma Blast Gun shots go wildly astray and do no damage at all.
Legio Mortis combat activation. The Warlord Titan Penumbral Reaper, with its mission in mind and there's no other targets in arc, fired with its Apocalypse missile launchers at the farthest Warlord Titan, hitting 7 times and stripping 2 shields away.
The Legio Astorum Warhound Titan Tumultum Furor then opened fire at the Warlord Titan in front of it with its Plasma Blast Gun on maximal fire. One of these hit to the body, causing minor structural damage, 1 direct hit and 1 devastating hit. Unfortunately, that meant there was nothing it could damage with the Vulcan Megabolter, so probably sprayed it with some bullets, but only chipped some paint off.
Final activation for the Legio Mortis. The Warlord Titan Nuntius Mortis opens fire with all of its weapons, pushing its reactor for the shield bane and finally stripping the shields of the center Warlord Titan.
The Legio Astorum Princeps Senores, finding his shields to drop, decides that he will enact the stratagem Machine Defiance, which is specific to the Legio Astorum. This allows him to roll 4 repair dice, once for each of his servitor clades, and for every 5 or more he gains a shield back. I rolled 1 5, and that means I've got 1 shield on this Titan active now. The Aurora Ratio then activates. Unfortunately, it's too close to fire its Carapace missile launchers at the Warhound Titan in front of it, so it opens up with its Gatling Blaster first. That strips 2 shields, and then the final one goes down to a blast from the Sun Fury Plasma Annihilator. When it comes around to the final Legio Astorum Warlord Titan to activate, that's the Fulmina Ceruleum, it looks in front of it, sees nothing whatsoever, and doesn't do anything with its activation. Just as he reaches the edge of the area of engagement, the Princeps aboard the Jus Ad Bellum remembers he can fire his Apocalypse missile launcher backwards, which he does in the direction of an enemy Warhound Titan off in the distance. Out of sight, 1 missile sneaks through and manages to strip a shield.
End phase for the Legio Mortis. The Warlord Titan Nuntius Mortis, as it suffered damage to its legs, turns 45 degrees to the left.
Turn 3 end phase, and the Legio Astorum Reaver Titan Jus Ad Bellum has successfully rescued the crew of the downed Warlord Titan. It will now head off over the horizon and go and have some tea, I think. Well deserved.
Turn 4, priority to Legio Mortis. In the strategy phase, the only order enacted was first fire on the Warlord Titan Nuntius Mortis, as I want the rest of the mana pool to have full flexibility.
Turn 4 strategy phase for Legio Astorum. Not so many orders this turn, as a few of my Titans need to be able to maneuver to catch hold of these Warhound Titans everywhere. So the Fulmina Ceruleum is on no orders. The Ultima Lux, however, is lined up nicely to a Warlord Titan with no shield, so he's gone on to first fire. In the centre, the Aurora Ratio is on no orders as well, because he wants to be able to chase after that Warhound Titan. And the two Warhound Titans for Legio Storum have both elected to go on to first fire orders. They've done very well, passing all their orders all the way through the game.
Movement phase, priority to Legio Mortis. The Warlord Titan Nuntius Mortis opens fire with its laser blasters, but it's not in range of the furthest Warlord Titan.
The Legio Astorum Warhound Titan Nihil Significant, on first fire orders, fires its Plasma Blast gun on maximal fire. One hit hits, hitting the enemy Warlord Titan in the head, dealing it a devastating hit and a critical hit, thanks to hitting it in the side. The other hit, misses and scatters off the board.
Legio Mortis activation. The Warhound Titan Shadow Strider boosts its reactor, taking a point of heat to move into the flank of the two Warhounds, hopefully to cover it with its Inferno gun.
The Legio Astorum Warhound Titan Tumultum Fora then opens fire on the enemy Warlord Titan. However, it fails badly. It gains a point of heat from missing. That shot scatters off the board again, and then it lands a hit to the body. But even at maximal fire, it rolls a double 1 to damage, having absolutely no effect on the enemy Titan.
Legio Mortis activation. The Warhound Titan Black Heart moves through the wreckage of the destroyed Titans to join in the fight in the middle of the board.
The Legio Astorum Warlord Titan Ultima Lux then opens fire with its missiles on first fire orders. It sees that the enemy Warhound Titan Blackheart has walked into its arc and strips all of its shields. All of the Legio Mortis Titans having already activated, there are two Legio Astorum Warlords still to go. First, the Aurora Ratio pivots on the spot, pushing its reactor to turn 90 degrees and line up some shots onto those two Warhound Titans in front of it. Meanwhile, off to the side, the Fulmina Ceruleum also pushes its reactor, also gaining a point of heat, moving a little bit, trying to get out of arc of some missiles and line up some shots for itself.
At the end of Fulmina Ceruleum's activation, I enacted the Stratagem Voidbreaker Field again, trying to take down its shields. I did 3 hits, but all shield saves were successful. Legio Mortis damage control phase. The Princeps Inoris and Penumbral Reaper rolled a really successful result, reigniting its Void Shield and restoring 3 in the process. Great. However, its companion, the Nuntius Mortis, did absolutely nothing. Finally, Blackheart reduced its reactor by 1, and Shadow Strider, in the orange, took a Strength 9 hit, suffering a devastating hit in the process.
Damage control phase for Legio Astorum. The Warhound Titan Nihil Significant had no problems at all, so nothing to roll for. Tumultum Fora had a point of heat, which it's managed to cool down again. We have in the centre the Aurora Ratio. That's not in a great position, but it managed to cure one of its shields, reigniting it, and also cool its reactor down a little bit. At the back, the Ultima Lux had no real problems. It managed to cool its reactor down to the green. And finally, the Fulmina Ceruleum has got its shields back up all the way to full and cooled down its reactor a little bit as well.
Turn 4, priority to Legio Mortis. The Warhound Titan Shadow Strider opens fire its Inferno gun. As it's close enough to avoid the void shields of the closest Warhound, it does a devastating hit and a critical to the Titan, to the body. As well, it strips a single shield from the furthest Warhound Titan. Additionally, the Warhound Titan opened up with its Vulcan Megabolter. Due to the close range, it's a risky shot, but it's successful, dealing 2 additional critical hits to the Warhound Titan.
The Warlord Titan Aurora Ratio then opens fire onto the enemy Warhound Titan directly in front of it with its Plasma Annihilator at maximal fire. One is rolled to hit, causing me a point of heat, but 3 hits land on the enemy Warhound Titan's leg. That structurally compromises it, but dealing it no critical damage. The Aurora Ratio piles shots into the damaged leg of the enemy Warhound Titan, trying to finish it off. Unfortunately, it's not very accurate. Only managed to get 3 hits between both its Macro Gatling Blaster and its missiles. That has successfully caused 2 more crits, I think. So that Warhound Titan is now at the end of its crit track for its leg, but it is still just barely hanging on in there.
Legio Mortis activation. The Warlord Titan Nuntius Mortis fires its laser blasters at the furthest Warlord, managing to hit 5 times and taking 2 shields in the process.
defending against those shots, the Princeps of the Fulmina Ceruleum pushed the reactor, and once again the Machine Spirit tried to take over control. However, as ever, so far at least, the Legio Astorum Princeps was able to maintain control and get the desired effect from his machine. Legio Astorum Warlord Titan Ultima Lux then opens fire with its missile launchers targeting the Black Heart, the enemy Warhound Titan. It aims those missiles at the damaged leg of the Warhound Titan and blows it clean off. Another Titan from the Legio Mortis has only one leg. The catastrophic damage result for the Warhound death was only a roll of a 1, which means it's silenced, it remains there, but it'll play no further part in the game.
Final activation for the Legio Mortis. Penumbral Reaper opens fire with its Apocalypse missile launchers at the farthest Warlord Titan, hitting 7 times and forcing it to push its reactor into the orange to boost its shields. However, that's successful for Astorum, who yet again pass all the shield saves. Penumbral Reaper then opens up with his Volcano Cannons, hitting twice, with the first shot taking a point of reactor heat in the process, doing no shield damage. The second shot went wide and off the board.
The damaged Legio Astorum Warhound, the Tumultum Fora, opens up against the enemy Warlord Titan in front of it. It strips the last shield with its Vulcan Megabolter before opening fire with its Plasma Blast gun on maximal fire, striking direct to the body, which is already significantly damaged. 2 hits to the body result in massive critical damage, and that has killed the enemy Warlord Titan. That's an engine kill to Legio Astorum. The Plasma Blast gun burns through to the reactor core of the Nuntius Mortis, causing a catastrophic meltdown. An enormous explosion burns in through the leg armor of the nearby Warlord Penumbral Reaper, dealing it 3 devastating hits. Fire from the other Legio Astorum Warhound Titan has managed to strip all of the void shields from the Penumbral Reaper. The Legio Astorum Fulmina Ceruleum then opens fire with its macro Gatling cannon into the back of the already damaged Legio Mortis Warhound. Striking it 4 times in its body, devastating critical damage is caused and the Warhound Titan is destroyed.
In a fairly heroic moment, in its death throes, Shadow Strider turns to face the Central Warlord, stripping its shield entirely before falling onto the ground dead.
In the end phase, the Legio Astorum Warhound Titan Tumultum Fora, which has a serious reactor leak, gains 2 points of heat, pushing it into the orange. The last action of turn 4 is to see if there will be a turn 5. For this we have to roll a d10, and on a 9 or 10 the game will end. 7, so the game will continue.
Turn 5, priority to Legio Mortis. Rather than repairing the damage, the Princeps Sonoris of the Legio Mortis elects to take the split fire order to deal as much damage as possible for likely dying in this round.
Turn 5 orders phase for Legio Astorum. The damaged Tumultum Furor successfully gets off a repair order. It manages to cure its reactor leak slightly, although it is still leaking, and also to cool down its reactor. So crucially, it's got its reactor outside of the orange before the repair phase, when it'll have to see if it gets damaged. Next to it, its buddy, the Nihil Significant, has got itself onto first fire orders to try and bring down the enemy Warlord before it fires, as has, off in the distance, the Ultima Lux, the Warlord Titan, which has stood at the back of the board, blasting away on first fire order for most of the game. The 2 central Warlord Titans have not gone on any orders this turn.
Continuing in its act of defiance, the Legio Mortis Warlord Penumbral Reaper advances towards the Astorum Warlords.
Legio Astorum movement, the damaged Warhound Tumultum Furor has turned tail and attempted to run outside of the fire arcs of the enemy Warlord Titan. Nihil Significant lives up to his name, firing his Plasma Blast gun at nearly point-blank range at the enemy Warlord Titan. He misses with both shots, both scattering way off into the distance, and slightly heats up his own reactor in the process. Not very impressive. The Princeps Senores in the Aurora ratio bears down on the enemy Warlord Titan. He aims his guns and gets ready for the combat phase. Meanwhile, in the distance, the Fulmina Ceruleum is moving around to try and get into range. He's still quite a long way away at this point. And he's forgotten his reactor's really hot, so he's going to be in a bit of difficulty come the damage control phase in a minute. Final activation for the turn 5 movement phase is the Legio Astorum Warlord Titan Ultima Lux. It fires its Quake Cannon, quite a tricky shot, manages to hit the left Bellicosa Volcano Cannon of the enemy Warlord Titan, damaging the gun and turning the Titan 45 degrees to its left in the process.
Legio Mortis, damage control phase. The Warlord Titan Penumbral Reaper repairs its damaged volcano cannon. No other actions were taken.
Fulmina Ceruleum then activates in the damage control phase with its reactor in the orange. Its shields drop as a result of a power failure. However, the ship servitors then get to work and, doing themselves very proud, they manage to reignite 2 void shields and cool down the reactor a little bit, getting it out of the orange again, and things are looking a bit better for this Titan now. Aurora Ratio in the repair phase rolls pretty well but doesn't get any 6s, so he's not able to reignite his void shields. However, he does cool his reactor right back down to the green. The Nihil Significant, which had lost a shield and gained a bit of heat, manages to fully recharge itself. And next along, the Tumultum Fura, which had picked up a little bit of reactor heat, has cooled itself back down.
The only Titan left on the board, Penumbral Reaper, opens up with both its volcano cannons at its opposing Warlord Titan target. It only strips 1 shield from the Titan, however, but it still takes 2 points of reactor heat in the process.
The Warlord Titan Aurora Ratio then opens fire with its Sun Fury Annihilator. It lands some hits into the body, causing 1 direct hit and a critical. The Aurora Ratio carried on the bombardment, firing its Macro Gatling cannon aimed at the already damaged body. 3 hits were scored, causing a direct hit and 2 devastating hits. That has resulted in there now being 2 points of critical damage to this Warlord Titan's body. The Aurora Ratio then fires its missiles into the enemy Titan's body, but only scores 1 hit from 10 shots. That's good enough to cause a direct hit, which, as the Titan is already structurally compromised, it causes a crit. That leaves it just barely alive, with plenty more Titans still to fire. Finally, the Legio Astorum Warhound Titan, Nihil Significant, no longer living up to its name, targets its Vulcan Megabolter at the body of the enemy Warlord Titan, scoring 7 hits, resulting in all sorts of damage to it, many criticals, and that is the last Legio Mortis Titan destroyed. The Penumbral Reaper's catastrophic damage result was a 9 on the D10, but since its reactor was already in the orange, we had to add +1. That meant we got a catastrophic meltdown. Unfortunate news for my nearby Warhound Titans. Luckily for me, only the nearer Titan, the Nihil Significant, was caught in the blast. But with 4 Strength 11 hits landing direct on its body, my Titan was destroyed. The result on its catastrophic damage table was a silenced, though, so it's just stopped working. And that's the end of the game, with no more resistance from the now vanquished Legio Mortis. It leaves Legio Astorum well in command of the battlefield. They've rescued their downed Titan crew, and they've only lost a Warhound and a Reaver Titan in exchange for destroying the entire enemy battle group.
That was it. What a game. Absolute carnage that Legio Astorum wrought on Legio Mortis. I think it's fair to assume that that Henry has won the game.
Yeah.
Good game, though.
Yes,
it really was. And it's funny how when you're in it, I think actually looking back, things went well right from the start. I think I had quite a good start. The enemy Reavers in particular took a lot of damage. But right the way through it, you know, you're worried about Titans getting too hot and their shields dropping down and all sorts of things bad might happen. But so I didn't feel like I was in control.
Okay.
I think the moment when I got off the board with the Titan crew, I think that felt good.
James, you definitely tried to gun it down, didn't you?
Yeah. I think the first couple of turns where I had quite bad luck and not a lot going well for me, they really hindered me because it started to improve towards the mid to late game. A lot, but those first 2 turns definitely hindered Mortis.
Henry made some amazing Void Shield saves, it has to be said.
Throughout the entire game, they were astonishing.
That's why I brought Void Shields. They're there to protect my Titans. I don't know what
But also as well, I thought you were really good at repairing your damage. You had a really unique rule for the Astorum that allowed you to do that.
That's right. So the Legio Astorum Titans can always re-roll at least one of their dice rolls when they do a repair roll. And for the Warlords, which I've got 3 of, they can can reroll 2 of them. Very often that means that a warlord is getting 3 or 4 even successful repair rolls. Its shields are really difficult to bring down. Its reactors quite difficult, doesn't tend to go too hot.
Yeah.
And also I've made a point with those Titans of not equipping them with too much stuff that heats them up.
Yeah.
So that means that I can use the reactors to heat up the void shields instead to protect them. So instead of my servitors being busy blowing on a bellicosa volcano cannon trying to put it down,
Fanning it
they're
down.
looking after the void shield generators, and I think that's what means they're tougher.
It's one less thing to worry about, isn't it?
Yeah,
Rather than going,
absolutely.
do I cool the heat down or do the void shields? It's just void shield, void shield,
Yeah,
void
yeah.
shield. And ultimately, that's what keeps the thing alive, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to dip into the victory points. I'm going to come back to the guys in their game. James did a valiant effort of crippling,
Yeah, an attempt.
Attempt.
There was an attempt.
scoring 2 victory points. But
Brave little warhound.
yeah, absolutely. But Henry, what an amazing score you've got 53 victory points.
Yeah,
Mortis shamed today.
They are a little.
I mean, yeah, I think no more now than when they betrayed the Emperor. I think this is
Payback.
Yeah, so I took one of the secondary missions from the Molech book, Justice for the Fallen. That was 5 of my points, and I think that's probably fair to say that we have achieved that. Particularly because I actually went and rescued the Fallen and took them home again.
Yeah,
you did,
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the points, 20 points for the retrieval mission for getting the Titan crew off the board, and then you scored points for the scale of the knights, and because
And the Titans killed, as part of the retrieval mission.
and because you wiped the Mortis out, you got maximum points, which took him to 53. So congratulations, a really awesome score. So well done. You've both brought back your Warhounds. James, let's start with the Mortis. Why did you bring him back?
So Shadow Strider did what Warhounds should do, which is range out, flank, maneuver, get inside shields, and did some damage.
Yeah.
Which, well, it was a very positive result. Getting that Inferno gun 2 inches within the shield,
Yeah.
doing that damage without even acknowledging the shield, did a lot of work.
Especially around the side.
Yeah,
So
especially
they
around the
also,
side, yeah.
Increase the strength.
And I think people look at smaller engines in Titanics when you've got 3 or 4 warlords on the table and think, that's nothing. And then when it gets close to you, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of things, and I could have done a lot more with them, I think.
Henry, I think your Warhounds did really well. Your Vulcan Megabolters on both of those Titans did really well.
I mean, they got a lot of engine kills with the Vulcan Megabolters. I lost count of how many engines went down to those in the end. Once you've got a structurally compromised location, particularly if you're up close within 8 inches, the Vulcan Megabolter is fantastic because you've got +1 to hit. And that means that instead of needing 5s, you need 4s, 50% more hits. They just... And all you need is a direct hit at that point to get a critical.
Yeah.
So they just really are great. And the plasma blast guns are good as well. I have to say, I sort of played these guys relatively... I didn't have much of a plan for them. I sort of thought I'd send them around the side while I made my push for the objective in the middle. But they just found themselves towards the middle to the late of the game, and there's actually nothing really hunting us. So they just plonked themselves down on first fire orders and just poured plasma into those 2 Warlord Titans until they pretty much both blew up.
Yeah, I think that's a key thing with Adeptus Titanicus. You need to concentrate fire until a Titan's dead, and then move on to the next one. The Mortis, because of the leg shots that you got on a lot of the Mortis, they were turning in place, so James wasn't able to bring the weapons to bear and focus fire on the Titan. So we joked mid-game that Henry was a bit of a leg man because he continued.
Show me a Titan's leg. Go nuts.
That was devastating. That was devastating, actually, because I couldn't get the angles in, I couldn't get fire arcs because my Titans were turning without my consent.
That's right.
And it's really bad for the Warlords most of all, because if they pivot, suddenly their corridor arc is pointing somewhere really stupid.
Yes.
You don't want to put them on first fire orders when they're aimed over there. And and also the Quake Cannon did a bit of that as well.
About to mention that,
Yeah, so it was really interesting to try out the Quake Cannon. It's actually, I've used it twice now, but in the previous game I never managed to get hits onto the armour of the Titan. It just the way things worked out. This time, particularly on those Warlords, you put it on first fire order. If you see a Warlord with no shields, shoot the Warlord, chances are it's pointing the wrong way all of a sudden.
Yeah, and that happened quite a few times. Quake cannons are hugely underused, I think.
Yeah. And it was really great to see some of the new Forge-World weapon options which you equipped on the Astarum as well. So it was really good to see those too. I think you agree, the game was fantastic. There was a ton of cover which the guys had to manoeuvre around in, and it was really lovely seeing these really brightly covered Astarum. I keep pronouncing it right. Astarum.
Who knows?
It's a tricky one.
Let's call them the Warp Runners.
The Warp Runners.
The Warp Runners, yeah.
It was good to see them advancing on the sort of darker and dour colours of the Mortis, so it worked really, really well. It was an absolutely devastating game, though. So, lots of deaths, lots of Titans exploding and taking other stuff with them as well. So it was really great to see that. I really enjoyed it, gents. So thank you so much. Now, we need to talk about Henry. He's done a fair old jaunt this morning, as has James from Swindon. But you come from London, but you regularly play at a club.
Yeah, so I'm a member of the South London Warlords. You may have heard of us if you've ever been to Salute. We put that on. I deserve none of the credit for organising that. But like many of the Warlords, I turn up there to help out. But it's a great club. We're based in Dulwich in South London, so if you're in the area, do come along. We've got a few people now playing Titanicus, so it's, there's not huge numbers of people playing Titanicus anywhere, I'd say, but Warlords is one of the clubs where it's happening quite regularly now.
Great stuff. Is there a Facebook page people can go to if they want to find out?
So look for Salute, and you can find us.
Great. Good stuff. Now, gents, Instagram. Let's talk about Instagram. I know, James, you're on Instagram, aren't you? So tell us where we can find you.
That's J Haratak Paints.
Fantastic. I don't think you're on, are you?
Well, I didn't think I was, but you now think maybe I am. So this is interesting. Yeah.
Maybe it was through Facebook.
It might well have been.
I think it was the Adeptus Titanicus page.
Instagram does link to Facebook and do funny things I might not realise. So we'll see. Because I meant to only be posting in a private group. But anyway.
Anyway, if you want to follow James and his antics with his hobby and his Adeptus Titanicus thing, please follow James there. You can, of course, follow the channel on Instagram too. It's just at the 30k channel. And many thanks again to Dan Wheeler for painting the Mortis Force for the channel. His Instagram handle is at 1ksun. All that remains to say is, gents, thank you so much for your efforts today. It has been a long day. We all started at various times in the morning. We picked the guys up from station at 9. And I think we're 7:30 now, aren't we?
Yeah, 7:10.
Yeah, 7:10. So a long old day to bring you the game. So I really hope you really like it. Gents, thanks again.
Thank you.
And we'll see you in the next game.
Cheers for the game, James.
Cheers.
Good stuff.